This is The Art of Wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, relax. You're about to listen to The Art of Wrestling, a professional wrestling podcast. It's a life podcast. It's personal journal and essential way into the minds and souls, hearts, and lives of people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I am a podcaster. I'm an actor. I don't know what the fuck I am. I do know, though, that I am a professional wrestler, and I am coming to you live from my studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. Before I go any further, this is a fan-supported and listener-supported podcast supported by people just like you. Give it to you free of charge every single Thursday. ColtCabana.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts from. A couple great ways that you can support. Rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Tell a friend. Tweet it out. Facebook it out. Best way that you can support, though, ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. T-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, micro-brawlers, keychains, buttons, and nothing but love. ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. Another week. Another podcast, another day, another week, another day in the life of a professional wrestler, podcaster, actor, whatever the fuck I am. And what are you? What are you doing out there? You doing anything important? Changing the world? You writing a book? You working hard? You being nice to people? Hopefully something's moving you forward. That's a thing, right? That's a thing that we do in life. Stuff to move us forward. Just need stuff to do. It's hard as a professional wrestler if you're just working on the weekends. And I've filled myself up with a bunch of projects that I do, but I do them all from home. So sometimes it's nice to just, find some stuff to do to leave your studio apartment. Went on an audition today. It was a callback, actually. Hopefully I get it. Here was the audition. Look to the right, and then look to the left and wave, and then look back to the right. We'll see if I could get it. I had to explain to my mom that I'm probably not going to get it, but I'm okay with the rejection. Like, I don't think they were like, ugh, a horrible actor. I think they're just like, that guy doesn't look like the guy that we want to do that guy. And luckily, rejection doesn't hit me too hard in the face. I feel because of professional wrestling and doing this for so long that rejection has come so much with the game, and I'm used to it. And it doesn't kill me too hard. Like, if I go up and do some stand-up or whatever, if I'm not getting the laughs, I don't beat myself up about it. I either A, laugh it off, or B, be like, I should work harder or think of something funnier. I don't go and hide and shame myself and think that everybody's looking at me and laughing at me, which is a good step. And it's probably taken me a long time to come to. And it's nice that it's a step that I've made and I've realized. Today on the show, talking to a friend of mine, I'm not sure what to put. I think I'm going to put Player Uno, now as Evil Uno. Canadian wrestler, part of the Super Smash Brothers. He's been around wrestling a very long time. Him and Stu have done live shows. They've done premium podcast stuff. And I was just like, I should get him individually on here as single podcasts. He's one of these guys who has been banned from the border. That's a thing that we deal with in wrestling. It comes up a lot, especially when I talk to Canadians. It's something interesting because it's happened to me. I got banned a couple of times at the border, or I got thrown back at the border. So it's always something that I think is not fun to talk about, but something that kind of sparks my interest, the rules of the Canadian border. And when it comes to wrestling, too, like I do understand if it's $1 million industry and wrestlers are making millions of dollars, but it's professional wrestling and independent wrestlers don't make a lot of money. And they just want to wrestle and get their name out there. So it always kind of irks me, these border wars that we're having. Luckily for me, as an American, I'm allowed to go into Canada as long as I say that I'm a performing artist. Thanks to Vince McMahon for getting that rule changed because he didn't want to pay any more money into Canada. So performing artists are allowed to go up. I'm going to be in Canada in 2 weeks, September 29th, 30th, and October 1st. Montreal, Ottawa, Oshawa, and Toronto. ColtCabana.com if you want to see me in Canada. I always get pulled into the border because I am flagged at the border, and I always have a poster of the show and a letter from the promoter saying I'm allowed to come over. I have my meeting with the border people. They're usually super mean. Sometimes they're nice. Bushwhacker Luke is a guy who's came up a lot. Like, they'll always be like, Bushwhacker Luke has done a show around here for some reason. He does a lot of shows. So I will have my conversation about Bushwhacker Luke. Then I will make it into the country. I will have those Cabana t-shirts. I only sell them in Canada. Michael Sanchez, a friend of mine, he drew them for me. I traded him. I traded one of my old iPhones for 2 commission drawings. He drew a map of the United States with my name, Colt, and Cabana in the different states, and then Utah's Boom Boom, because I thought that was cute. And then he drew a Cabana t-shirt with all your stereotypical Canada stuff. Colt Cabana, a moose. I think I won the Mackenzie brothers, but he didn't put them on there, which is a reference for anyone probably 35 and older, which includes myself. This weekend, I had a very fun weekend. I was in Cleveland and Marietta, Ohio. Of course, AIW, which is taking a little bit over 2 months off to regroup. They'll come back the night after Thanksgiving, which I will be there, November. But this show was especially fun. They're always all very, very fun. I tagged with Grado. I wrestled Cheech and Colin Delaney. And Colin Delaney is 31 years old. I want you guys to take that into perspective. I want you guys to think about that for a second. 31 years old. He was in the original Wrestling Road Diaries, which was filmed in 2009. And at that point, I was pretty sure he was 34 years old. But no, Colin Delaney, 31 years old. Good fucking Lord. The next day, I wrestled at a show called Remix Pro. And Remix Pro only does shows 2 times a year. Usually it's October and April. And I probably would do a lot of them, but the Pro Wrestling Noah heavyweight tag team tournament and singles heavyweight tournament are always in October and November. And I was doing those tournaments in Japan for years. So my dates for Remix would always clash with tours of Japan for Noah. Sadly, I'm not wrestling for Noah anymore, which is bad news for me, I think, but good news that I'm able to go to Marietta, Ohio. And the other good news is I think I'm doing a tour at the end of December back in Japan, so I'm excited about that. But these Marietta shows are super fun, and they remind me of super old school independent wrestling. There's such different varieties of independent wrestling, and I think if anything, I try to champion the idea that I do like all of them. Like I have wrestled in some weird, obscure places, and I'm able to fit in. I can fit into a comedy show. I can fit into a super indie show. I can fit into a lucha show. I can fit into a family show. I'm able to adapt, and I think that's one of the things that's given me a lot of longevity in my career is that if you have a show, I'm able to perform there because I understand my audience, and I will perform to that audience. And this is just a small town, and the community comes together, and they just want fun, entertaining wrestling. And it's at this kind of high school type gym, maybe a middle school. The basketball nets are up. The community is helping serve food. There's volunteers asking you if you want water. I wouldn't say reminding me like how much I love wrestling, but just reminding me of my, first 2, 3, 4 years and then giving me that nostalgic feeling. And in turn, that gives me a good feeling and I feel good about myself and myself as a wrestler. And hopefully I'll be back in Remix next year. So this week, again, Player Uno is no longer Player Uno. He's Evil Uno. You're going to listen to him and I chat. It's a real fun chat. I hope you enjoy it. I do have a song of the week before we get to that, though. And the song of the week is brought to you by Stamps.com. Going to the post office, it can really suck. Lines are long. It's out of the way. Or sometimes you're just straight up lazy, which is fine because you should be avoiding the post office and you should be mailing everything from postcards to envelopes to packages, domestic or international, at your home with Stamps.com. I use it. I do. I swear to you. I was using it before they even started advertising. I was shipping out a lot of stuff for ColtMerch.com, and I was constantly on the road. So when I would come back, the last thing I wanted to do was go to the post office. So I made the switch to Stamps.com, and I haven't regretted a second of it. It's such a smart move by me, but such a smart move by them because they've been sponsoring podcasts for years now. And how cool that they're sponsoring this one. You can literally print postage anytime. I've done it coming home from a show at 4 a.m. before. You even get discounts you can't get at the post office. Plus, they'll send you a digital scale that automatically calculates exact postage and help you decide the best class of mail to send it. Right now, let me get you a 4-week trial plus postage and that digital scale without any long-term commitment. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Colt. That's Stamps.com. Click the mic, enter the code Colt. Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again. Song of the week was suggested by Alex Ketchum. It's by Starcade. The group, not the event. Buy their music at themstarcadeboys.bandcamp.com. Follow them on Twitter at StarcadeBoys. Their song is called Long Limousines. Enjoy it, and we'll be back with Player Uno. Evil Uno. Evil Uno. And I'm afraid that because we're in a theater, in a box, I don't know, there's a locker room here. We're in a box door. There's people talking outside. We're in a dungeon room.
This might sound awful. This might be your worst podcast yet.
Your Harry Carey glasses, or I'm sorry,
Harry, I don't know who Harry Carey is. What's Harry?
Also, I want the people to think that you're in a mask.
Oh, yeah. But I wear my glasses over top. I mean, it's not because I wear a mask that I don't have perfect vision or not.
Right.
I do not.
Well, what do you do when you wrestle?
I actually just go in blind.
I love the idea of a masked wrestler.
Wearing glasses? Glasses. I would in a perfect world, I could wear my glasses in the ring. Like, I always wear glasses 24/7, but I can't do contacts. I tried once to wrestle with them, and they tore in my eye. Ooh. And since then, I'm like, nah, nothing else in my eye. I can't do it.
So you do wrestle blind?
Yeah, Cabal. I mean, I can. The only thing I can't do from afar is I can't read. Like, I could tell who you are from afar.
But just in general?
Yeah, I can't read at all. I wasn't. I didn't go to school, so it's been so bad. No, but I can't really. I could tell who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time you're wearing a singlet, and your singlet's unique to you. But I can't
talk about my muscles and how big they are.
Oh yeah, they look great. Right. Even they're so defined, even with my eyes. And but most of the other time, like I can't tell your facial expressions. If you were like waving fingers at me, I couldn't tell you.
Let me put these glasses on.
They're not that bad. They're real greasy. I've got a greasy forehead too.
Yeah, these are all right. Yeah, because I remember I played football with my glasses off, and then like junior year I got contacts, and I also became a much better football player
because of the contact. Stu just recently switched to contacts, and like his vision is worse than mine. And suddenly he's like, I can see the ropes, and he could never see them before, which I can't understand.
That'd be so great if he just became like the greatest wrestler ever.
This quick story: this one time we were doing in Chikara, and the venue was
do you call it Chikara or Chikara?
Is it Chikara or is it Chikara?
I'd imagine it's Chikara, and the singer is Chikara.
That's Shakira.
Oh.
Yeah, those are different things.
Yep, okay.
Okay, so Chikara, like there's a hard K.
I think a hard ch.
A hard ch.
Yeah.
So Chik. Oh man, I can't say it. Chikara.
I think so.
So we were having a match against Ultramantis and Delirious, and Stu at this point is wearing a mask. He's only been wearing a mask for 3 months. He's blind, so he can't really see, and the walls are black in the venue, and the ropes are black.
Yes.
And on top of that, Delirious is wearing an all-black outfit because at this point he was evil Delirious.
And who's the other? Ultramantis?
Ultramantis black.
And he's a black man.
Exactly. Full-blown.
Yeah.
Born and raised. Yeah, that makes sense.
On the playground is where he spent most of his days.
Exactly. Straight from Philly. And Stu was supposed to hit a dive, and he hit the ropes, but he hit the ropes opposite, like perpendicular. Is that what it is? So like, let's say if I were to hit the ropes, I'd hit the ropes in front of you and I'd dive at you. But he ran the ropes sideways because he thought Delirious was a fan. And he started diving. And as he started diving, he realized what it was. And he did this weird spring off the second to then turn around and dive on Delirious.
Did it look awesome?
No.
Okay.
I mean, the dive was fine. The weird movement around was very odd. The best part, though, is that he had done a dive on it. It was a man in a wheelchair. Oh, so it wasn't like they didn't even look at all the same. So it was very confusing. But thank God that could have been. I mean, definitely Quack would have never brought us back.
Yeah, I've done that before because I'll do that acai moonsault in the ring, the quebrada for us, our Mexican wrestling fans.
Exactly, me being a Mexican.
I was going to say for the Mexican wrestling fans.
Oh, there's that too.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a black wall and black ropes, and you really there's a real like running and like staring at the rope.
Yeah,
and
staring. I haven't done a springboard in like 8 years just because the one time you roll, you feel so dumb, like when the ropes roll because they're made of actual rope, or like the tubing with like this.
Were you a guy who I remember getting yelled at like the first couple months of practice, like trying springboards and stuff, but like being able to do it, because I think that's what you when going into wrestling school, all you want to do is springboards.
Well, I mean, I actually was terrified of going to the top rope and stuff, so I was like, I started when I was 14, and I was extremely young and extremely small. There was no way I could beat an adult male. So they kept saying like, oh, do things off the top. You know, you weigh like 145 pounds. You got to do this stuff. And I was terrified. And I was like, oh, can I just hit a power bomb or something? Like
a 14-year-old.
Yeah, that's
can
it.
I just be like 14-year-old Sid Vicious?
A big powerhouse, weigh 145, soaking wet. It's the complete opposite of what I am now.
And how old are you now?
I'm 29.
29.
Yeah, so I've been involved in wrestling for half of my life now.
That's how you look.
That's
at
how I say it.
Yeah.
Because if I say in years, they're like, "Why haven't you done anything of worth?"
Well, sometimes I say, I'm like, oh, I've almost been Colt Cabana half my life.
Yeah, right. I've literally been Uno for 15, 16 years.
Were you Uno at 14?
At 15 was my
such
first.
a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm 14. What's your name, Player Uno?
Actually, my first one was even worse. It was I was gonna be El Popo. There was no meaning behind it. It's not a police officer gimmick. Their gimmick was essentially that I liked poo. It was really weird. They're like, oh, El Popo, because they thought poop. Like, anyways, I remember I'm based out of a French area, and to them they thought it was hilarious. So I did one match like that, but kind of those. You ever wrestled those? Those custom shows where essentially you're grappling men, but it's just men jerking off at home.
So I have done. I might have told the story once, but I used to do in North Carolina.
Yeah,
and I got injured
doing those
shitty customs for dudes jerking off.
It's never anything nice that the injury. Like every time I've hurt myself, I've never been able to tell a good story from it.
Blew up my shoulder for dudes trying to blow me.
I did a drop down and my shoulder ruptured. Oh wow, what's that? I laid on the floor. It hurt. Yeah.
But you were in the customs game?
Yeah, so at 14? At 15. So,
oh, man.
But here's the weird stuff.
Wait, is that legal?
I don't think so. And this was definitely not legal. So, like, it was a pastor, and they sold it as, we're coming to your school, we're going to record in your gym, you're going to wrestle each other, and this is for this place up north in Quebec. Everyone loves this.
In a wrestling ring?
In a wrestling ring, yeah. No audience, cameras. And
it was a pastor?
The pastor was the owner. I don't know. He was just the person that brought it up to us, so it was weird. Like, definitely, it flagged everything in my mind as being awkward and weird, and I'm only 15.
Right.
But it was also my first attempt at having a wrestling match, so I was like, yeah, I'm all for this. And so I wrestled as El Popo back then, which was nothing. They didn't want me to be masked because they want to see our faces, because obviously you can't jerk to a...
And you're a strapping young boy.
Oh, really? Really thin, too. And the weird thing is I used to wear pleather pants and a T-shirt, like all 15-year-olds. And when the...
In the world or in wrestling?
In wrestling.
Okay.
No 15-year-old looks cool, except for, like, lucha 15-year-olds. You can't tell the difference. And he told me, hey, I like your outfit, but we don't want that. Can you take off your shirt? And I was like, that's fine. I'll take off my shirt. And then he said, instead of wearing those pleather pants, could you wear those? And he pointed in my bag, and they were a pair of loose SpongeBob boxers. And at that point, like, 4 adults had come and had just swarmed in, and they're like, get the fuck away from this kid. But I still ended up doing it. They didn't want to strike. They want us to mat wrestle, not work the crowd. So it was definitely one of those,
So I kind of want to know more about this because, you see now that my dick is out. And
we're throbbing right now.
So obviously that's why I want to know more about that. But this is a part of wrestling, and it's very...
it's like a taboo thing, but like you'd be surprised how many people get involved in this stuff. Yeah.
But so who... Does their training school set that up?
So yeah, the first training school that I was at, I guess this was actually this is a recurring thing in the Quebec scene. This person would go to multiple schools, and I'm not sure if he'd go to one school and people would pick up on it, so he'd disappear to another town. But so it was this. I don't know what their name was. They would always claim that it was up north in Quebec. They had a TV show. No such thing. We looked it up, and he would show up, and I think he would just offer money to the promoter to use the venue and their talent rather, to do these matches.
And then he would pick out the guys that he thought were cute, or
we pretty much everyone showed up, but like I remember we had a big guy named Trey Humongous, so you can assume he's a big fat man and a nice guy. But then they're like, maybe not.
Maybe the crowd.
Yeah, and like he didn't want people using fake names because he's like, oh, real names are real important up there, that kind of stuff.
And you don't know. It's so weird how like. People who want to manipulate and be creeps can just do it, right?
Especially in wrestling where everyone is like, oh, this is the norm. Like, I see creepy stuff all the time. It feels like there's less now. I don't know if it's just...
Well, the internet.
I think that's what it is.
Did you ever see the movie Tickled?
No. What's this?
Go watch it.
Is this a wrestling-related thing?
It's a tickling related, but it's basically based off of, like, customs.
Yeah, the tickle customs. Yeah.
So that's how, like, as a wrestler, you can really relate to the custom world. And this guy who's running this tickle brain, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone because
it's a documentary, isn't it?
It's amazing.
I saw a trailer for this. I think. Yeah,
and you think about the custom world, and it really gets just I don't know. You could do whatever you want, but also now, and it's great because nowadays people will be skeptical because you can. Skeptical,
yeah. I mean, it is a spectacle.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But because you can go on the internet and you can do a little research.
Yes.
Whereas I don't know, when did you start? What year again?
So I was 14, so 2001.
Okay, so
is that it? Yeah, that makes sense.
99, 2001, right?
Yeah.
Cyber fights, and
Yeah,
probably into 2000.
yeah. I think they still kind of.
Yeah, but that was like you could kind of. I remember going on the Cyber Fights website and looking at people and like being like, oh, one day I'll be able to do cyber. Like I wanted to do cyber
because
fights.
you don't know.
Yeah,
that's it.
And they would talk about how much they get paid.
See, here's the thing. I never got a dime for this. But I mean, I was 15. I'd never wrestled. So in my mind, this was the norm. You know, I don't know if you were the same, but when you start, you assume like a $10 paycheck is like a great deal. Especially in my area, no one was good or bright enough to tell us like how it was elsewhere.
Sure.
So they're just like, oh, yeah, you're going to lose money. And I mean, you always do.
They set you up for that.
Yeah, pretty much. I think somebody benefited from this, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, but well, because my trainers, Ace and Danny, were always like, "This is how," and they came from Windy City Wrestling, which was like, I don't know. Windy City Wrestling has this like aura of like we're the best, you know.
Yeah.
And so they're like, you always get paid, you always get trans, and they were like. Even when they were shitty, they were like, this is how it works. We get trans, we get a hotel.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went into wrestling being like, well, you get paid and you get a hotel. And when you're so young,
you don't know.
you're impressionable.
Yeah.
Whatever they say is the rule.
Well, I'd say most wrestlers that start in a wrestling school assume that wrestling school is the deal. Like anything they say is the right thing.
Right.
But you don't know.
I wonder. It's so interesting how the way trainers will say to people, and obviously in Quebec, everyone it was just assumed. Because for me, it was assumed that you get paid and you get trans.
Oh, no one like I think my first $50 paycheck was like probably when I went to America. And that wasn't even legal either because I was underage. Shouldn't have been wrestling. And anyways, that's another ordeal.
Oh, we can't talk about that.
Oh no, we can't.
Statute of
I mean,
limitations.
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
we don't have border patrol on us.
They're the worst.
The worst.
Have you had any issues coming in here? One time you came with us and we had an issue.
Of course, I'm flagged.
Yeah,
I go in every single time.
You too, same. Yeah.
You too is flagged?
Well, we're flagged. We can't go to you too. They are. Yes, the Edge was here with Bono like last week.
But they had
Canada
trouble
Day.
getting in. I heard.
Oh, not at all. Probably not.
Oh, I thought you said you too was flagged.
No.
Okay.
But I just mean I'm also flagged to go in. It's just insane.
Well,
but you don't have an issue coming into Canada, do you?
I do. I'd get pulled into immigrations every time.
Okay, because I remember the one time we drove together and we had waited like 4 hours for them to get a fax.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't. But now I realize that like. I think back then I didn't realize that ooh, maybe I could scan by him. It's like, no, I go in every single time, and I have to have a letter, and I have to have, and I bring it all, and right away I go up to him, I go, hi, I'm banned in your country for 2007. I lied about coming in as a performing artist, and right away they're like, okay, this guy gets it.
Come in, yeah.
We'll get him on, They don't have to like be like, why are you here?
I did the same because I had a visa for a short amount of time last year, and I was like, there's no point. I'm just gonna straight up say everything, get this out of the way, and like they're just like, yeah, that's fine. Just get
with
in.
the visa.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Here's what happened. I got
that's it. Because theoretically we can't wrestle in America, but we can't. So like an amateur entertainer, not mainer, entertainer, can come in and it's fine. But a professional needs to apply for a visa. But because it's called professional wrestling, it's kind of a gamble. And then eventually the gamble caught up to us. And then they're like, well, no, you're a professional. This is a job. You're stealing money for an American. You need a visa. And then since then, we've tried to go in with some paperwork that we got from our visa. We were actually supposed to make a surprise return to PWG last year in June for a Mystery Vortex.
I think I remember hearing that.
And we were supposed to be there, but we got to the flight. They let me through, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then when Stu got to the border, they're like, no, you're turning around. Then they picked me up. They turned us around as well. So
They picked you up too? What do you mean?
So like I went through. I got through the border. I was ready to board, and they called me up, and they said, hey.
Just kidding.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. You told us and you got through. Some other guy told us and we're not agreeing with his story. So, yeah.
Well, did you guys talk about the difference of your stories?
No, we had the exact same story. It's because I had, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I had a guy who just didn't care.
Oh.
No, the guy didn't care. He's just like, oh, yeah, wrestling? Oh, that's cool. Go ahead. And he had a lady who questioned him more about it, and then they pulled him in.
So when I was going to England a lot with no visa, now they get visas, and apparently it's only like $14.
I'm doing that in October, and when they told me, I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, right. No pressures. So there was like sciences of like who to go to. And like I was like told, don't go to women. And like, because like they're going to like dudes don't care.
They have a harder time in their job place, so I think they're probably stricter.
They're right.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then I was like, I think it was like, you want to go to older guys because they've just been around and they're like over it.
Yeah, they assume that their instincts are good. And
yeah.
they just go.
And you want to try to go when they're ready to go off shift. And like, it was just, it was like a whole con to how to get sneak over on the border. Because we heard stories of like, I don't know if you heard these stories too, but like, Chad Collier was a big one for a lot of us trying to go over to England. Was he went over and then got sent back.
I know Fox did that once as well.
Okay.
He landed in England, and as soon as they landed, he's like, "Nope, you're born back."
And then I did a show once where Sandman was there with no visa, walked right in.
No issue.
It's like, oh,
was he wearing his American flag pajamas and stuff?
Probably.
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's just some American man. I think the longest time they didn't believe we were anything because they looked at me.
Yeah.
Like Stu now looks like he's got muscles and stuff, but I'll always kind of look dinky because big, thick rimmed glasses, mask, But for the longest time, they just laughed at us when we would say, like, oh, we're going to wrestling. And they're like, oh, what's your finishing maneuver?
You get paid?
No, never.
Right, okay.
No, because that's the one that gets you out. And then actually, if you don't get paid, theoretically, you still can't go. Because if they make money off you, it still work.
Jesus.
So it's this whole ordeal, and it's kind of like there's a set law, but there isn't a set law. So like there's a lot of, I know other Canadians, I won't name names, but they have their way of getting in, and there's no issues. We tried that. It didn't work. So I've been through the visa process for 4 years now. It's just unreal. Yeah,
but you had one.
I had one for a short period.
Okay,
of time.
you trying to get it again? Is that what it is?
Yeah. I'm not going through the same people this time. And
what's your thought process? Just like, so how does that work in terms of like you as a wrestler? You're like, I need a visa because I need to be in America because that's how you break.
Yeah. I mean, in a big part, we were doing our best work in 2012, and things were going really well, PWG and so on, and we had some big things lined up. And then 2013 happened, and we got our flag, and then every attempt after that to go in got us turned around. And I have a real day job. I work for immigration. Funny enough.
Do you really?
Yes. I moved to Justice recently, but I worked for immigration. I'm not an immigration advisor. I work on the web, but that's what saved us from getting a full ban because I work for immigration. I have an actual job here, and they're like, oh, so you can't really be making much. Which I mean, not everyone in wrestling makes a ton of money, but. Where was I going with this? This is a ban.
Why you went to America? So like, why you thought you needed to go to?
So
America?
like, when we got our ban in 2013, we couldn't go back to America, and all of our bigger stuff until recently. Now with Smash and a couple others, there was not a lot of buzz in Canada. Like not people talk about the Canadians that come to the States. Like you'll hear about Paige, you'll hear about Josh Alexander, Kevin, all that in that time.
That's how it's always been, right?
It's always like that, but no one comes to seek things in Canada, right? So we had a hard time to just trying to get our footing into, like we have our normal places. We work Smash, C4, but no one paid attention to it. So like that whole buzz that we had came kind of crashing down. And it was like, it was
smashing
hard.
Down.
Smashing down. Well done.
Yeah,
well done. And like, yeah, it personally hurt. Like just, it was kind of a hump to get over. But then we tried our way to the UK, and then because there was no buzz, we tried to capitalize on it a little too late. And that's the biggest thing. And then, so in my mind, we have to come back to America to try and get back the buzz that we need. I got the short period of time last year, and now we're both applying to try and get it this time.
I feel this is like a documentary. Like I just watched this guy, Snake on your phone.
Yeah.
But there was a video game that was basically Snake, but
the same deal.
It was called something else, and he was just he's just this like 45-year-old like out of shape gross guy. But they made this documentary because he broke the record when he was 18.
Okay,
and he was going to break it again when he was 45, and like they made a documentary out of it.
It's like that Kong one. You ever see that?
Yeah,
one?
Essentially it is. But I can, as you say, like we're going to come back and make our break. Or we're going to get back into it.
That's how I've been hyping myself up, and I know what's going to happen. We'll come back, and I'll get one extra booking a month, and I'll start crying again.
Yeah. You're gonna put this money for this visa?
I already have, yeah.
Yeah.
I did last time too.
Which is a big.
So the first one I got was an 01, and it was about $3,000, and it was supposed to be for 2 years, but by the time all the processes went through, back and forth with the government, all that, I had 4 months on it.
And that's an investment.
Yeah, and I mean, I made that money back, but I then had to reinvest it to the next one. Mm-hmm. So, and now this new one is a P1. The price is like 5 or 6 instead.
Really?
It's a group visa, so it has to be just so you're not applying just as a single entity. It's got to be part of a group for a company. And so we're in the process of working those deals out right now.
Not as a group of a bunch of wrestlers.
No,
so
a bunch of wrestlers actually,
Oh.
like us with multiple others.
Well, then can you divide that up and it comes a little cheaper or no?
No, the 500 is per person.
500 or $5,000.
Yeah, no, 500, not $5,000.
Oh, I think it's $5,000.
No, the previous one was $3,000 because it was an 01. It's the same visa that an astronaut gets, which was insane. Like I'd had to prove to the government I was worth more than an American, and the way I'd prove it is by saying I won these fake tournaments.
Oh, I thought you were say I went to the moon.
Yeah, oh yeah. First man to ever wrestle up there.
Oh, what a claim to fame. Yeah, I remember, I forgot what it was, but Sammy, for DDT.
Yeah.
I can't, El Generico, sorry.
Yes, different people.
They're totally different. And he was like, I think they got him in 01.
Yeah.
And he was like, he had, and it's funny because, I don't know, you break out like Total Wrestling magazine or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's it. You take any magazine. I took like PDFs of magazines that barely exist.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how many readers
And even
they
when they come out in real life, you're like not that excited, but you
got to save those. Yeah,
you can con people into thinking that you're a big
that's
deal.
it. I take my PWI one always. I think that was the first thing my lawyer said. He said, if you are in the PWI 500, mention that. That means you're in the top 500 wrestlers of the world.
What were you at?
Oh, I've been in the 200s for the last like 10 years.
Floating, huh?
Yeah, that's it. Just never can reach that peak.
Do you apply?
For the PWI?
Yeah.
You have to apply?
Back in the day.
Oh, yeah?
I think that's how I first got in, was you would send an email and send in like your credentials and they'd throw you in.
I think a big part is part of the because they have a committee that votes on this. I have no idea how this works,
Right.
But I'm pretty sure a Quebec guy, Pat Laprat, he does. He writes books and he's kind of a historian of Quebec.
And I think a Toronto guy too.
I believe as well there's a Toronto one, so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the Canadian names are probably handed in by those people.
What's that guy's name? No, he's going to be sad that I don't. He does something with the women's wrestling too, I think. All right, but anyways, yeah. And then I think once I became like an ROH, I was like, I'll let them do it.
Handle it.
For it.
I mean, I would love. It's because our big thing was every company we worked for kind of was too small of a company. So like we had been offered, like PWG had said, like, oh, if we could have done it, we could have. And I know they would have, but they're not a company. They're based
you in
on
the PWI or to get you a visa.
Oh, the visa. Sorry, we're talking back to PWI here. I'm like for the visa, it would have been them, but for PWI, I don't know who the hell did that. I didn't know you had to pay though.
Not pay. Just send in your info.
Just send in. Okay, I thought there was like money involved in this too, because it could have been a con.
Okay, so let's talk about wrestling.
Okay.
14. How do you go?
How do I go about that?
Yeah.
So I loved the wrestling as a kid. I think everyone in wrestling did, and for a select few. I always claimed when I was a kid that I was going to become a wrestler, which obviously no one believes you, and I think I never believed it either. And
also, is this weird that I'm half naked? Are you?
No, this is fine. You look good.
I feel we're wrestlers. Like it's fine.
And
it got hot in here, and I took my shirt off.
It has been pretty hot. I would take off mine, but it would get kind of weird.
Okay.
The pants is enough for now. So I was 14, and at that point, like I had figured that I wouldn't become a wrestler because I didn't know how to go about it. And
You'd given up at 14.
Yeah, but I mean, like everyone had told me like it's impossible. I don't know how you even become a wrestler. So I was like, oh, okay. And I wasn't big. I'm still not a giant guy. I'm 6 feet, but I mean, I'm not bulking with muscles or anything like that. And I definitely wasn't at 14. And my best friend at the time had just found a local school. He says, hey, do you want to go to training? So I forged the signature at first and didn't tell my mom. And I went to the first training. My mom's signature.
So who was the trainer?
At that time, is a guy named Tommy Blade.
Great wrestling name.
His finisher, the Tommy Knocker.
I would have went for the Crossblade.
A Blade seems like one you'd want to play off of.
The Blade Runner.
Maybe there wasn't a ton of Tommies back then. Who knows? And so he was the trainer, and a couple of other guys, Righteous Rick Sterling, some old IWS guys. And so I did the first training. It hurt like hell. But
they said, hey, you can't. You're too young.
You've got to sign this. Yeah. We've got to get a parental, your parent needs to accept because you're 14, and if you die, it's their responsibility, not ours. And so I forged the signature. I showed up for the first one. Then I showed up for the second. And like this whole time, it would just hurt, and I wasn't very good. And eventually I told my mom. My mom was okay with it. And I kept going at 14, and then eventually I started feeling back pain that is supernatural because you're falling on your back. But as a kid, I'd never really felt much pain. I'd never gotten hurt ever in my life. So I took some time off, and then I came back maybe 2 months later, and things started to click. But at that point, I was still 14. There's no way they were ever going to use me on a show at 14. At 15 was the same thing. Then they used me in those.
And you got a taste.
Yeah, I got a taste of it. And they're like, "Oh, work in front of no crowd. How do you love it? Oh, I wish there were people out there."
Okay, so my question is, they were charging you, I'd assume.
Yeah, and not a lot because I worked at McDonald's and didn't really afford anything.
I was going to say, and in a past podcast, we have your father.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't doing so well.
Yeah. So my biological father is homeless.
Right.
Yeah.
So was he home? Oh, you didn't live with him though.
No. So like he's my biological father, but he never really raised me. So I was like around for the first year.
So you had your mother and a stepfather, or just your mother?
Yeah, stepfather is who raised me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I essentially count his as my dad.
Gotcha.
But it's a much better story to say that my biological father is homeless. Because he is.
Depending on what kind of story you want.
I mean, yeah. Most people think it's like, oh, that's very sad. But I mean, I'm not personally that affected by it. It's kind of funny to say because I see him. I work downtown in my city, and downtown is the best place to ask for money. So I see him on occasion. But I don't think he knows I'm his son because I've never went up and been like, hey, here's a quarter. By the way, I'm your son. See you later.
Yeah.
Like, see
you owe
tomorrow.
me a quarter. I'm putting it on your debt list.
Yeah, so he didn't raise me or anything. So there was no one.
Okay.
There was no money involved with him. There's nothing like that. I haven't seen him in like a son-father capacity since I think I was 11.
When you walk by and you see him, like no part of your heart is like, oh, maybe.
Like I kind of I had made a decision kind of young. So when I was up until 1, obviously I don't remember that. He was around in and out of prison and like kind of, he was an awful influence on my family in general. And then my mom and him broke up, and she had met my stepdad, and he raised me for the longest time. And he would send me postcards and stuff from prison. I didn't know they were from there. And then eventually he started wanting to come back around and just to see me. And at that, I mean, you're young. You kind of want to meet your dad and stuff. But I'd go to his place, and he'd just sleep for the weekend, so I'd watch wrestling. So he would just sleep for 3 days.
So he had a little bit of wrestling influence on you.
In some sense, my dad is kind of why I like wrestling because they were my escape when I was there.
Escapism, of course.
And then eventually later on, I think I was 8, he had a girlfriend, and it was the same thing. I'd go for a weekend. He'd sleep the whole weekend, and her kids would watch wrestling, so I'd act out wrestling with them. And then eventually I just kept going and then got in.
So then did McDonald's money pay for wrestling?
I paid for it out of my own pocket, but it was $40 a month. And I couldn't make it most months either, though.
And they'd
just accept. I think at first they didn't like me because I was a 14-year-old kid, and the weird thing is like you have adults beating you up to try and take you out of wrestling, and you're 14.
Yeah.
But I kept sticking around, so they liked me, and then eventually I just became like.
Did you find you had like father figures in wrestling at the wrestling school?
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways wrestling was. Like, it's hard to say because my biological father raised me, but in a lot of ways, I was raised through wrestling.
Your unbiological father?
Yeah, sorry. My stepdad raised me.
Yeah.
My biological father was pointless. Yeah.
But you feel you grew up at...
Yeah, from wrestling. Like, I don't think I'd be as confident as I am now, and, like, I definitely wouldn't have the social skills that I did because I was very awkward when young. If it wasn't for wrestling, if it wasn't for like because all of my friends at that point in time were like in their mid-20s and I was 14, 15.
So what would you see? Like what I mean, I know from my experiences, and I could say, but I'm interested in what yours would be like. If there's, I don't even know if it's specific things. I'd love to get to be specific, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but just the idea of like, of how you see people act and how you mold or how that helps you mold to become that human.
In the grand scheme of things,
yeah,
like
guess.
I saw, I mean, like I kind of came from it's hard to say, but like a dirty little shop for wrestling. Like, so I saw a lot of fucked up things, but a lot of the people that were younger always took me aside and be like, these people are like an old guard. Ignore the cocaine, ignore the plowing chicks in the bathroom, like that kind of stuff. And to me, this was all foreign and new. Like I remember, I had met the Anvil, and I was 15, and I showed up at an arena, and I opened the door, and like he was, and I was like, "Ooh, what the fuck is going on here?" And I didn't know what to do because
What was his reaction?
He just looked at me red faced, and I walked away.
Yeah, because I don't want like.
I mean, it's probably hard to. I try to imagine myself an older person seeing a 14-year-old walk in and do that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like
but also he's another world. Those guys we're all another world.
Yeah, they were way above us too. Like,
but I mean, just like
they
weren't real human beings.
No, that's true. Yeah. Whereas I think maybe starting from like, I would say you've been around a little longer than I have, but I think from like my generation onwards, felt like it was human beings.
Yeah.
Like I feel like anyone that's vastly older than me that's been involved in wrestling are kind of a caricature of what the 80s were.
Caricature.
Caricature?
Yeah.
Sorry, the French in me.
Yeah, because I think ECW would be the last one because that was like the last kind of traveling road show.
Yeah.
And so our generation never experienced a promotion that
was all about partying and about
but even
crazy.
that went around the loop.
Yeah,
and you didn't have to do any work to promote yourself. You just had to wrestle.
That's true.
So our generation, we have to hustle to get ourselves over, and we're doing it on the internet, and because we're all a bunch of fucking nerds.
Yeah.
Right. So those guys, the Memphis guys, the '80s guys, whatever, they weren't trying to get themselves over. They were just. Someone was telling them where to go.
This was just the deal, and they did the deal. And I think that's why a lot of us are different. And I mean, I started and I was doing maps, and then I did MapQuest, and I did GPS, and like as I progressed in wrestling, things got easier for everyone involved. So I think a lot of other people got involved in wrestling. So now, like when a show ends, you'll have two guys. They'll be like, "Hey, we're going out. You want to go out?" And most of us are like, "We're getting some food and playing video games." Like it seems like a completely different world. But when I was 14, like it was these people that were kind of like my age bracket and like early 20s. That kind of, but were still vastly older than me. That took me aside and like, this is not normal. Like, just be you. You're fine. Just ignore that. That's not stuff like that you should be involved with. And a lot of ways, like that, and just the confidence of fighting older people, kind of gave me the like. I don't know if you were the same, but when I was young, I felt invincible through wrestling. Like for the first few years,
I just through wrestling.
Like because of wrestling, I just assumed I couldn't die. I couldn't get hurt.
Okay.
I was young and like
doing spots. You mean?
Yeah, just in general. Like to give you an example, a car almost hit me once, and I instinctively jumped onto the roof of it, and I was like,
because you felt you knew how to bump, or just because
I just felt like I've taken all these stupid things. I've crashed to the floor. I've done dives. I fell off ladders. Nothing can get to me. And then I did a drop flat and my shoulder popped out and I was like, this is it. This was the first sign.
Is a drop flat a drop down? And
drop down,
Quebec wrestling?
Yeah, a lot of people call it drop flat up here. I still say drop down too. I just alternated.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like I'll look back and be like, I can't believe I did some of that stuff, but that's how we all made our name. But I don't think... Yeah, I mean, I guess a little bit of me was like, I can't die because we're so young. I don't know if that's wrestling. That might just be life.
It could be me. Yeah, I don't know. That's true.
Not just you. I'm saying I think all kids.
That's true. Younger you are, you don't know. Like I didn't know the consequences of my actions. Like everyone are like, hey, you're going to be in 10 years, you will regret these things. And I was like, no way. And I'm 29 and I'm like, ooh.
What are you regretting?
Oh, I mean, I've got like various shoulder issues.
The moves that you do.
Mostly that stuff. I mean, I don't regret the wrestling. I think that's the best thing that kind of happened to me. Nice. I'd be a different person. And I mean, my time away from America has kind of made it clear that like without this, I've tried to delve into other things like video gaming. I tried to do a bit of podcasting and I was just never... I know that because I'm starting it won't feel familiar to me, but it never gave me that feeling wrestling ever did. So, like, I never felt as complete as when I was wrestling. So...
Are you finding your schedule can fill up just as quick in Canada?
Yes and no. Like, I mean, back in the day, I'd work 3-4 shows a week and, like, travel a ton. Now it's like, I get, like, 2 a week, which is good. And I don't have to travel, like, 20-hour drive to do it. But it's not the same. Like, no one... Other than Smash... C4, IWS, no one really talks about the stuff up here. And even then, you kind of just hear those as in, oh yeah, I've heard of those shows. I hear they're the Canada this or they're the Canada that. But there's not a whole lot of buzz up here.
Well, maybe that can change.
Yeah,
I mean, you've seen the UK scene.
Oh man,
and I think everyone sees that as like, okay, if they can do it, we can.
Anyone can. And I think like right now is the most confident I've been in wrestling in general.
But you know what it is? I mean, to be fair, I mean, it is the wrestlers, but it really is the audience. Like they're the biggest gimmick.
They're buying into it more than anything, and they're into like vocally. I feel like the chants, as much as sometimes it's too much. At the same time, it's kind of what got people to come in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're the character that like people want to go because it's fucking madness, and it's madness because the audience makes it madness.
That's it. Yeah. They participate.
Right. Right. Otherwise, we're doing it for nobody, and you're wrestling for a pastor.
Yeah, that's it. In front of, and they're like, don't work the camera. But I mean, there's no. Let me yell at some inanimate object.
Right.
But
did you grow up speaking?
Yeah, I'm French, but my dad and stepdad were English, so I was raised speaking English. But I'm naturally French. So I went.
Do you speak French Canadian?
Yeah. I
that wasn't right. Wait, is it
French Canadian? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, French.
Okay.
Yeah, French.
And you
Canadian.
picked that up in school, or you picked that
No,
up in life?
I was French to begin with. So my mom is French, so I was raised French. And I just picked up English through my dad and through wrestling and through stuff. I went to French school up until college, and then college I did English.
But you spoke English, no problem.
Yeah, it was fine. I've spoken, I mean, from wrestling and from my just natural life, I picked up on. Most people don't even know I speak French.
Okay.
They just assume like, oh, he's just a slight accent from being Canadian.
I think we all assume that everyone over here speaks French.
I think so. I think probably a lot of Americans come up and they're like, you definitely speak French.
Okay, so and then like how I would say like do you like I'd like to pinpoint the moment of where like you're this guy, everyone's just wrestling, everyone's wrestling. I know Kevin and Generico make their break from the scene.
Yep.
But do you guys have like a moment that you, or maybe you specifically, that where you guys started to realize like maybe you're a little more special or a little more talented, or there's something maybe you have a little more want than these other people?
Yeah. So like we had many stints where I felt like we were doing better, and obviously then the stints after we were doing better. And we had so my first big one was Chikara. And at that world, Chikara was kind of like my whole life. I was like, oh, this is the deal. Like, this is going to be big.
And were you like, my character is fitting for that?
Yeah, I was fitting. And I was like, it's getting over. People like me. And it's not forced liked. It's like they're naturally liking me. And then I got Stu involved and we won the tag belts. And I was like, this is our big moments. And then Chikara scrapped us like 6 months later. And then so it kind of I assume every wrestler's like this, but it was kind of roller coaster ride. I'd have my highs, then I'd have a dip, and then I'd do something to get out of that dip, and that get me my next high. So it'd be like I did that, then I was like, okay, we're gonna do anything. I'm gonna jump into any car. We're gonna go back to the States, and then we started doing ROH. And when Adam Pearce was there, and I was like, this is it. We're going to be on TV, like Pearce loves us. He says he'll sign us to contracts. And this Pearce got fired the next week.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's okay. Cornette's coming in. This will be great. And then Cornette dropped us a month later.
Like,
and
within 1 second at looking.
Oh, yeah. He saw me and he's like, nope, this is. And like.
And you're friends with Kevin?
That's true, yeah.
Goodbye.
He had and like to this day, like whenever we were mentioned, he's like, I hate those guys. They wear pajamas, blah, 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 blah. Which, I mean, if you looked back at what I wore, it wasn't great. So whatever. That happened. And then we kind of went down in a 6 month slump. And then our highest deal was we went for PWG. I was in California for 2 weeks, and it just worked out on a show. They're like, "Yep, we can use you." And the second we came out, we're like, "This is the place." Like,
why were you there for 2 weeks?
I'd never had a vacation my entire life. I've always wrestled since I was 14, so I'd never been anywhere. So me and Stu had said like, "Hey, let's go to like Disneyland and stuff like that." So we just ended up flowing to California, and we said like, we'll do California shows while we're down there. If we happen to do PWG, that would be amazing.
Right.
And then I'm not gonna lie, Kevin got that for us.
Right.
Kevin's been like was the largest supporter. Now I don't talk as much because I don't want to be a bother because he's on TV and
it's a weird one, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I get it.
Like it's nothing like there's no personal thing between us. It's just that I feel like I don't want to be one of the 700 people that probably like, hey, Kevin, great match on Sunday.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a personal thing.
No, but I get like it's your head's right.
Yeah.
But it's not. But it is.
Yeah, that's it. Like I just don't want to be part of that. Like the whole fog of people that we'll go through. And then so 2013 or 2012, we won DDT4. We had a amazing 3 matches in one tournament. We had won the tournament, and at that night I was like I'd finally realized like what I could really do this. Like I could make this a living. And at that point I was thinking about it. I was only like I was prepping to get out of that and just make this my life. And then 6 months later I got flagged.
Yeah.
And then at that point I was like, I'm very glad I didn't quit my job.
Yeah.
Just because it was so hard afterwards.
And now you're Evil Uno.
Yes. I am. I would love to say there's a great story behind it, but there really isn't.
Well, it was the idea of like maybe I should freshen up a little.
Yeah. So essentially, it was like we were away from the States. Nothing was happening of interest, and we've wrestled the same teams over and over. I've wrestled the same guys. I've done the same thing, and it just didn't feel validating anymore. And I was like, I've never been a heel because I mean, Player Uno is just not a character. You see a video game character in a mask who like, and I'm quirky and stuff. It doesn't fit. So I was like, man, screw it. I'm gonna revamp by just going like, we'll be mean. We'll get to do different things. Because at that point, I thought we weren't coming back. So we turned around. We did the characters. We were supposed to debut it in PWG. That didn't work out. Right. But really,
is he Evil Dose now too?
He switched. He didn't want to be Stupefied because a silly name, you know. So now he's Stu Grayson. Right. He's more like he's like a straight up. Not a powerhouse, but he's not a quirky baby.
But you changed your colors. You got a mean looking mask.
Yeah, mean looking mask. Yeah. I tried to change the style, and it was more just to validate my own existence. I just was like, I've done 10 years of this. Right. I would love to do more, but it's just not doing it for me.
But anymore. I like the idea that also like. Right, I sometimes think about like how would I change, but I want to keep the same. But it's like, yeah. So it's like you're different, but you're you.
That's it. Like I wanted to change, but I didn't want to drastically change to the point that people are like, I don't know who this guy is. Right, exactly. And even to this day, people are like, "What is evil? Just a thing you do on occasion?" And I was like, "Nah, this is it."
That's your Finn Balor. That's your.
Yeah, I just essentially committed to it, and I was like, we're gonna do this. I just don't want to do the same stuff I've always been doing. And it's been great. It's some of the more validating stuff in the last few years, other than like the big stuff. But
that's great. Where are you at on the internet?
You can find me at Evil Uno on Twitter. I'm on Facebook as Evil Uno as my Facebook page as well. Instagram is still Player Uno. Some fucking asshole has Evil Uno. Some lady she doesn't want to release it. So
she's been playing Uno her whole life.
Yeah, that's it. But real mean,
sketchy.
Yeah, a real dirty person doing it. So yeah, you can find me on those. I'm on YouTube. We're soon to be on Smash. Is about to have a television show. Starts July 20th on Fight Network.
Well, I think this is going to come out after I go to Edinburgh. So like
okay, so it will be on Fight Network. It's the hour after Impact each week on internationally and in Canada. And that's the main place that you can find me there. C4.
Great.
Smash.
And October, you're going to UK?
Yeah, I'm down for 2 weeks. One date has been announced as of yet, Tidal Pro Wrestling, and I will be at least 5 other shows that you will see and expect.
So go at it. Watch him. Grab some merch while you're over there.
Yes, please. That would make
You're on the
day.
merch. You're on the merch. You've always been on the merch train.
I've been there early. I remember back in the day when we were telling Kevin, like, you have to make merchandise. And now he makes more money than all that.
Right. But you were one of the, the days when I was the only one at the table and Hero was the only one. Yeah. You were also one who realized you were very early on it now. Now it's a shit show.
Now it's impossible. It's so hard to go out there because you have to fight people for their attention. It's a
legitimate fight. Yeah.
Because everyone's
people
up.
And wrestlers. You have to fight wrestlers.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I remember you had said a comment back in the day. We were so aggressive about getting people to get to our table. And you're like, you got to be less aggressive about this stuff. And nowadays, I'm seeing myself think that. I'm like, oh, my God, is this what I was like?
Yeah,
and I was, definitely. That was definitely me.
Great. I appreciate you being on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Good to have Evil Uno, Player Uno on the show. We'll get Player 2 on very soon. I'm going to Canada in 2 weeks. Hopefully we get together, do a little podcasting, and send that out to you guys. Other than that, let's get into some plugs and upcoming events. All right, the best way that you can support ColtMerch.com, digitalcolt.com, Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana, Facebook /AOW Podcast, also /Colt Cabana, my storytelling podcast, Pro Wrestling Fringe, plus past archives of this show. They're ad-free, and they're on StitcherPremium.com /Colt. Use the code COLT, get a free month, ColtWrestling@gmail.com, my very public email. Maybe a promoter want to put me on your upcoming show or convention, YouTube channel. I got one. ColtCabana.com is my website. I got a P.O. box. You can send me something fun. Upcoming this Friday and Saturday, September 22nd, 23rd, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll be doing commentary for ROHWrestling.com, but I'll be around. You can come see me, say hi. Friday, September 29th, Montreal, Canada, Facebook /CRW Wrestling. Saturday, September 30th, Ottawa, Canada. C4Wrestling.com. Sunday, October 1st, 2 p.m., Oshawa, Alpha-1Wrestling.com. 7 p.m., Toronto, Facebook/Greektown Wrestling. Wrestling Jock Sampson that day. Saturday and Sunday, October 7th and 8th, Dublin and Belfast, Ireland, OTTWrestling.com. October 12th through the 15th, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Chicago. I'll be doing commentary, ROHWrestling.com. October 25th, 26th, 27th, Los Angeles and Riverside, California, LuchaVavoom.com. October 28th and 29th, Gainesville, Florida. Saturday, I'm doing a live podcast. Please come to that. Sunday, I will be wrestling at Fest, thefestfl.com. All right, that is the show for this week. Thank you to you guys at home for listening and telling a friend. I always appreciate that. Thanks to Player/Evil Uno. Thanks to Cable Guy Jeff and Stu Stone, Kid Russell, and Matt Jenkins on the music, Dane Miller and Creaky with the tech help. Sponsors, we got sponsors. HighSpots.com, a VOD service that is amazing. Watch your PWGs. Watch your $5 wrestlings. You can also buy AMA knee pads, gears, mask, and a wrestling ring from those guys. OneHourTees.com, they help run pro wrestling. Crate.com, they help run pro wrestling. Tees.com, which will now have an actual store in Chicago starting October 12th. Come in there. I'll be around. Maybe I'll be the cashier. Tweakedaudio.com/Colt, the earbuds that I use. Get over 30% off for free shipping just because you listen to this show. I'm going to Vegas. Maybe I'll throw $100 on blackjack. I usually don't, but then Jay Lethal's like, come on. And then Carrie's like, come on. And then I'm like, all right, let's put some money down, baby. I don't do craps. Not into craps. Carrie Silken is the craps master, which doesn't sound like a real compliment, but he loves craps. He's been trying to get me to play for years. Todd Sinclair also, but nope. I like blackjack's all right. And there's some other games that I'll play, but you got to know me. I'm not spending this money, but sometimes you got to live a little bit, I guess. Gambling's not the way to live. I don't know why I would even say that, but maybe when in Rome. When doing 2 shows at a casino, Sam's Town in Las Vegas, just gamble away your money. All right, I'll do it, and I'll see you in Vegas. This has been The Art of Wrestling. For Colt Cabana, I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks.